Alright, so I am not happy to make this video or do any sort of reviewing here. Um, really just kind of, I would say unlucky day. Probably should have changed the strategy up on the TP and stop loss, but I was like, volatility is not that high. And honestly, it really wasn't. I just got unlucky, um, you know, price action, I guess. But this video is before market open. I didn't edit anything. I'm just gonna skip through it. But man, okay. So I'm like, I did good analysis on the daily, right? I'm like, okay. I was like, we keep bouncing off this bottom area. Then there's this top area we keep rejecting. So we're pretty much in a range. I see this, right? Price moving up, price is moving higher. At this point, I'm thinking I should get in, I should get in, I should get in. But then I'm like, well, and I'm like, fuck it, just go. And right as I go, literally bottom tick pretty much. So if I had went, literally in the middle, would have been good. I'm like, all right, whatever. Down 600 bucks. It's fine. It's fine. We'll keep pushing, right? I mean, honestly, today was just unbelievable how much we were pushing. All right, we break these highs. I'm like, okay, probably should have gotten in there, but I wasn't really prepared. I was thinking maybe a rejection of it, but I was like, nah. We keep going. I'm like, okay. I'm trying to get in a little bit of a pullback. That's the other thing. Price is moving so fast. I'm trying to get into a little bit of a pullback here just to, make sure I don't get a bad entry. So I'm watching my 10 second. I'm like, okay, we're actually, kind of consolidating here a little bit, sort of, maybe a good area. Boom. To the tick. Immediately goes back up. Sort of, I think. Right? Woulda, sorta, woulda. Right? It keeps going. I mean, there's a little bit of a consolidation thing. But honestly, right at the edge of this volume, big volume. So that was, you know, not good, I guess, entry on my part. Of course, we would have hit some resistance there. So a little too hesitant, I suppose. All right, so I guess we don't go immediately to target, but, you know, just kind of bounces around for a second there, then starts going. Which again, I don't get in because at this point I'm down 1,200 bucks. I'm like, not happy about it. Let's keep skipping ahead. Keep kind of rejecting this bottom, and I'm just like, it's so weird because we were like really just getting whippy price action, but having a clear like support area. So it was like it wanted to go, but then didn't. And I was just like, I don't know. Keep making highs, and then like that would have worked. I was thinking of doing a trade there where you have the giant wick, and I didn't, and I didn't, and I didn't, and I keep breaking. I was like, nah, it's not gonna work this time. Boom, keeps working. So a little weird chop. It was hard for me to like fully believe that this was working. You know what I mean? Even though that was perfect. Uh, keep going. They were bouncing off of VWAP there for a second. I'm trying to figure out how to get in. I get in there. Okay. So I'm like, all right, we got pretty good, support built in. Really shallow pullbacks is something I'm noticing. So I'm like, okay, I guess we have to. Like, we're making higher highs. So I was like, okay, we have to. I know we keep hitting here, but it's just, there's such pressure to go up that, it's going to be good, right? So at this point, I'm not willing to put it break even just where the entry's at, but I see we get this like push up, really good momentum. I was like, okay, I'm going to put my stop just below the candle because if it breaks, the candle, it's probably going to go down. So I'm up 200, right? And then boom, immediate rejection. Okay, bummer. Bummer, bummer, bummer. Kind of huddle around, then we just get that flat out rejection. Yep, keeps pushing it. That's not good. I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm just gonna get break even if I can. Nope. Cracks a low. Then here is where I probably should have re-entered after this candle close. Like, okay, actually it's still holding. But now I tried putting a limit order at VWAP. Doesn't work. So now we're just yoinking it. I'm like, great. Put something there because, okay, again, we kept, every time we made like a pullback on a 10-second chart, I was noticing. And this was also, you can't see it, but the way this candle closed was on yesterday's point of control too. So, but I was like, okay, pull back. If we pull back to there, that'll probably be like a little bit of support because, again, it's just really, really pushing there. Don't get it. So I'm like, whatever. So I'm like looking at this. I'm like, all right, this is kind of just kind of guessing at this point. Maybe get a little wick test, something like that. Should be a good area, I think. Pretty sure I just ask into this because I'm just watching the 10-second. Like, are we getting? I'm looking for that momentum to just push back up, you know? Okay, so we're getting it. I'm like, all right, fuck it, we're going. At this point, I changed my strategy from, 40 ticks to the 80 tick stop loss with 100 ticks. So yeah, which is what saved me from getting stopped out. So I think if I was 40, I would have been stopped out. I think pretty close to it. No, I would have. Anyway, so it gives me some room, right? Obviously, there's pretty big candles here. I need that room. Here's where I get unlucky once again. All right, I normally don't like putting a stop above the highs here, but again, we were just like really rocketing it up. So I was like, hey, this is gonna go. And also, you notice this yellow trend line above. That's where I had put on the daily, just noticing that's, one, those are the highs, and also that's just overnight highs, and also that was just kind of an area that should be resistance. So at this point, I'm not even sure if I should like get out because it's kind of not going anymore. I was like, nah, but then it keeps like rejecting and then rejecting. So I'm just like, okay, it's just in a little bouncy bounce. Then I noticed it's like 20,000. That was a pretty big psych level for the past few days. So I was like, oh. But I was like, no. I was like, we keep technically pushing it while also rejecting it, and I mean, we're pushing it both ways, but it keeps quickly getting bought up here, so we should hold, right? Okay, boom. I'm like, all right, perfect. Stop, break even, because if it rejects this high, it's gonna stop me out, right? Watch this bullshit. That's it. That's got to be at least 2 ticks. Really irritating. But I was like, all right. I was like, I'm just gonna hold it. I'm just gonna hold it. At this point, I also sized down to just one contract. Yeah, well, bigger stop loss and take profit. So yeah. So down 1,200. Need this, 500 to bring it down to half. I'm just gonna skip ahead because I'm like thinking maybe I should flatten it. I was like, nah, don't flatten it. Let it stop you out. Which is a good thing I didn't. Because I close it early here and then we get the push up. I was like, whatever. I'm not with this shit anymore. All right. Is it this trade? No, this was a. I think this was a good decision on my part. Yeah, again, I'm expecting us to do the same thing we did earlier. Really shallow pullbacks, bunch of back and forth, kind of yada yada. So at this point, break even, because hey, reject the highs. It's going to stop me out. So again, good decision. Value area shifted and point of control showed up right there. Okay, cool. Stop me out. Would have worked for the 40 tick, 50 tick TP, but anyway, fast forward. I notice we're putting in a bottom. Get this sell off, right? Again, with the unlucky shit. I don't know what it was today, but we're pushing down here. I'm still expecting us to hold to the upside, you know. So I see good momentum. I'm just like, okay, I'm taking it. You know, we got good momentum. I'm going to take it. Guess what? It was a little too early for the break even, but I was like, whatever. You see that? So fast, stops me out, immediately runs. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. Was not thrilled with that. So at this point, just break even. 2 break even trades. And 1 winner. Alright, so I noticed that we're just really pushing it here. And I'm like, alright, I think we're going to break out. So I do a breakout trade. Best one yet. Woo woo. So really good. So now I'm down, it's like 600 bucks. I'm like, all right, cool. Peeling some of this back. I'm watching the structure. You know, I can see on the 10-second chart, we're kind of putting in this downward channel, but it looks like a good area that we'd break from. Could have gotten in at an earlier price, but I didn't. So now I'm just like, kind of waiting just a little bit. Really trying to wait for my 2 minutes, because that's better trading decision than just watching the 10-second. Where is it? So I'm like, okay, we're building up some like volume or what have you. Not too forward. All right, so we're finally pushing back up. We're pushing back that first failed push up. And I'm like, all right. I was like, this looks like it wants to go. And it did. So then I hit the break even button. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna let this run too much against me. If it happens to run against me. So I hit break even because I'm like, yeah, because it starts like slowing down a little bit. I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna. You know, because we keep hitting this volume up here. So I'm like watching it. It's 400. So then we hit 500. I was like, okay, 50 ticks, but then it bounces back. I was like, ah. And then I'm like, you know, I really should just let it run a little bit because we've just been having such great moves. So I kind of try to do that. I let it hit 600 bucks, but then I hit the flatten button. But the price action, again, so quick, stops me out at 55 ticks. So I get 55 ticks. So at this point, I'm down 75 bucks. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Keep going. We hit that area that I was like, hey, we could reverse here. All right, I'm thinking we might get a bounce off of point of control. This is where I had some really good smart decisions. At this point, I'm like, okay, we can go 3 contracts, right? Smart decisions, because really, when it comes to point of control, if like there's a new one that forms, we should just bounce off of it immediately. But we're not doing that. We're kind of just stagnating. And I'm just like, it's a little off. It's not really doing what it normally does. And whatever. I get out. Perfect timing. Because it just immediately falls out. Would have stopped me out. So I was like, okay. I was like, Mr. Smart Man. And then I'm like, okay, maybe, you know, stopped everyone out and stuff. But no, it didn't. I was thinking we might have the push to go back up, but it didn't. Stopped me out, so I was like, fuck. And that's where I did. Again, I went back to like the 10 tick thing. Because I was like, okay, we're kind of coming down on volatility a little bit. I don't know if 80 ticks would have saved me or not. I don't think it would have. And then that's where the internet cut out. Oh, plot twist to the story. The internet cut out. So I was like, fuck. And that's at 9 o'clock. So that goes out. Pissed me off, bro. Let me pull up the next video. Is this it? No. The internet goes out. So at 1 o'clock, I get the bright idea to pull up the hotspot on my phone, which, you know, connection's a little slow. I don't really get good service out here, but it's enough to run it. So I'm like, okay. I was like, that actually would have worked. Because again, you know, what's so pissy is if you look at the top here on the video, kind of like on the 2-minute chart in the far right, you can see how like where my last trades were. I was still like I could have made that back. I was still thinking of like, okay, I can make another trade here because we're gonna push that. And that's right where the internet got out. So fuck me. But anyway, this is where I make a good decision and then just bad decisions. So I'm like, okay, unfortunately, the chart, you cannot see it on the 2-minute, but I'm like, hey, I was like, this looks like a good area. So kind of push up. And honestly, I don't think I've traded well at like 1 o'clock hours at all. So I should stop trying to do that. But at this point, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm already defeated on my day because everything just kind of got, my plans got ruined. So then I'm just like, all right, let me try to get like, just go break even or something on the day. Almost got stopped out. Crazy I didn't. But this worked, right? Just a nice momentum, you know. I saw us kind of pushing up, had a blockade there, broke above it. I was like, all right, perfect. Our ATR is at 18, I think. Just, you know, slow. And also, you can't really tell in the video, but maybe it wasn't that. But the data seemed a little, I don't know, skewed to being choppy. And I think that might have been the connection from my phone. Not sure, but breakout, perfect. That worked. Keep moving. Buy again, because I'm like, hey, this... Looking at my 10-second, waiting for momentum. Also kind of looked like a good area, but I was also skeptical because we rejected this area last time. We're just really slow here. So I'm just like, no, stopping out for like 3 ticks. Ends up selling off. And I am thinking to myself, this is a good, like, it's not looking good at all for the upside. So I maybe short the top of, you know, one of those candles. I don't do it. Instead, I do the thing that I'm like, hey, I shouldn't do this. And it goes back to just bad luck. So that was, you know, I'm thinking momentum playing. Okay, goodbye at the bottom. Like, that was a good plan. It was a good plan. Unfortunately, didn't work. And I'm like, okay, break the bottom, sell. Again, just nothing seemed to have had enough momentum. Immediately reverses on me. And I get stopped out. So I'm just bummed. Like, it goes in my favor, but I just... At this point, it's like 1,200, and I was like, all right. I was like, I was only down 300, but I should have just called it quits. This is where I go one contract, make one more trade, because again, I think this is a good area. Nope. Still pushes. But after I ended that video, we got a little doji, and then it pushes down. So really just I don't know how to describe it. Bad decision making, bad whatever. I don't know. It is what it is, you know, you make decisions on what you see. It's a discretionary style of momentum trading. You know, you could say your stop was too tight, whatever. Sure, it was. But I am thinking I should wake up early at like 7:30. Because I do notice some like low volatility, but enough price action that it actually kind of like, you know, stops aren't too bad placed of how I want to do it, and take profit seems to be easier to get. But anyway, I knew this day would come. I will say it just goes to show that I should focus more, I don't know, trying to get my winning days up more so that when I have, so my daily max loss, I'm putting at 2,000, But I really should push the days where I make profit, because that basically wiped out 3 days of trading for me today. Yeah, and I'm just feeling very angry, or well, not angry, but frustrated. Angry, frustrated. I don't know. Frustrated about my internet cutting out. Second time this month, you know, because for some reason the infrastructure in this state is absolutely dog shit, like absolutely garbage. Um, but because I feel like I would have done better after there, because I was break even, and then I was down 600, and I was like, okay, I know the drill. Go back and forth, and eventually I end up winning. But nope. So I will say though, I mean, I know 40 ticks works, but how many of these trades were, if I was, I'm gonna have to look at the previous week, but like how many trades during this week did I actually have enough room to go the full 100 ticks, because maybe 80 ticks is a lot better trading wise. Just gives me enough, like, because if there's enough momentum, there's enough momentum. If there's enough, gives me more room than just simply screwing myself over. Um, hmm. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what I could have done better. I do think paying attention to the second trade of the day that I made, paying attention to how I was at the edge of that volume profile was not the best decision to put a buy order right there. But I mean, having bigger, wider stops also would have helped. Um, yeah, because later in the day it was just hard to get momentum. I think that would have been fine volatility wise. Um, if it was like, I don't know, early in the morning or something. Because once price like starts going in a direction, it usually keeps going in said direction, so you don't need to give it too much room. But I guess lower in the day, later in the day, it tends to not do that as well. But I do think it was kind of weird. You can just notice like all the wicks, like wick ups on the chart, like when it's going down and then wicks up and then just rejects. It's a little, I don't know. It's like it looks like a lot of stop runs and stuff like that. I will say the fact that we are pretty much in a range, consolidating at the bottom does make trading a little harder. I find it easier for me to trade when it's trending than it is when it's consolidating, but whatever. Hmm. I would say the bummer thing about this is if I didn't take that first loss, I would be up like 4K. Because that's, I mean, minus today, that's pretty much what I had made was, 2K from the drawdown, 4K today, so. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. We're gonna do a little more studying today. That's it.